موطني موطني الجنان والجمال والسناء والبهاء في رباك في رباك.
Now we're going to have some speakers talk about the history of the land of Palestine and educate us a bit on the history of Palestinians that have lived in that land for over 70 years. Can I invite Chloe and Cal and Themba up?
Okay, hi, I'm Cal. I'm going to be the first of 3 speakers for this section. Okay, this is not a new conflict. It has been waged for more than 100 years and has been backed by the United States since the creation of Israel in 1949. The history could easily be taught. We demand it be taught in schools, but since that demand has not yet been met, it falls on us to give a brief synopsis of the story. We can provide citations upon request. To start, Zionism, as defined by the Oxford English Dictionary, is a movement for the reestablishment and now the development and protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. According to Dr. Theodore Herzl, who established it as a political organization, the aim of Zionism is to create for the Jewish people a home in Palestine secured by public law. Public law being, in this case, the endorsement of imperialist powers. Following the First World War and the Balfour Proclamation, the British took control of the country of Palestine and established the Mandate there, the Mandate of Palestine, in 1922. Due to the principles of Zionism and the real and ever-present threat of anti-Semitism, socially, culturally, and legally in Europe and beyond, many Jewish settlers and refugees migrated to this area, even more following the horrible atrocities and the inexcusable evils of the Nazi Party in Germany during their rise to power and beyond. A pivotal mark for the Israeli occupation was the Nakba, as mentioned earlier, between 1947 and 1949. Over 750,000 of the 1.9 million Palestinians were made refugees and forcibly displaced from their homelands. Zionist forces took 78% of historic Palestine, ethnically cleansed and destroyed 530 villages and cities, and murdered 15,000 Palestinians in a series of massacres. Zionist paramilitary groups launched a vicious process of ethnic cleansing in the form of large-scale attacks aimed at the mass expulsion of Palestinians from their towns and villages to build the Israeli ethno-state. The British occupation authorities had announced that they would be ending their mandate in Palestine on the eve of May 15, 1948, after announcing the creation of the State of Israel. This is the day that Palestinians recognized the pain, suffering, and ethnic cleansing and atrocious murders committed during the Nakba. Now I'll hand off to the next speaker to continue talking about the Nakba.
However, the Nakba did not start or end in 1948, and the oppression has continued every single day since. During 1967 and the Arab-Israeli War, also known as the Nakba, meaning the setback, Israel occupied the remaining Palestinian territories of East Jerusalem, the West Bank, and Gaza Strip, and continues to occupy them today. While under the UN partition plan, Israel was allocated 55% of the land. Today, it controls over 85% of historic Palestine. The Nakba has led to the displacement of some 430,000 Palestinians, almost 500,000, half of which have originated from areas occupied in the 1948 Nakba, and thus were twice refugees. Israeli forces used military tactics that violated basic international human rights law and attacks on civilians. Now, over 3 million Palestinians living in occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem face home demolitions, arbitrary arrests, and displacement. As Israel continues to expand its colonies, the Palestinian movement is restricted by military checkpoints and the separation wall that has obstructed their ability to travel freely and is recognized by Amnesty International as apartheid. The Gaza Strip, where 2 million Palestinians live, has been under Israeli siege for more than a decade, whereby Israel controls their airspace, sea, and borders. It is described by human rights experts as the world's largest open-air prison. Due to the ongoing genocide, 100% of Gazans currently face risk of starvation, exacerbating an already existing human rights crisis under apartheid.
Following October 7th, over 70,000 people have been injured and 30,000 have been killed by the state of Israel. Indiscriminate bombings, famine, prohibition of medical and humanitarian aid have all led to the systematic oppression of Palestinian civilians, whose lives are also being treated disposable by the Western and Israeli news and media outlets. The International Court of Justice ruling brought by South Africa officially recognized the current actions of the Israeli government as genocide. This genocide is not a distant issue. Our nation is funding this. Israel is the largest cumulative beneficiary of United States aid. They received $300 billion. Last month, we passed a Senate bill with over 14 billion going to Israel to commit war crimes. This is why we have the responsibility to show up and show out for the people of Palestine. We're not asking for much. We're not asking for much. We want PPS to be able to educate students on this issue. We want Palestinian voices to be heard.
والحياة والمزاج والهنا والرزاق في هواك في هواك هل أراك سالما